And that's how we build a strong dog. So often we start a yoga practice and we go into downward facing dog because it's such a common pose and it feels awful. And we think there's something wrong with us, that we're too tight, that we're too weak, that we're too much of a beginner. There's nothing wrong with you. What we need to do is build downward facing dog from the ground up so it's useful and usable for you. The first thing we want to do is build a solid foundation before we even come up into downward facing dog. And to do that, we start on all fours. Your shoulders are over your wrists, your hips are over your knees, and your toes are tucked under. Now to make this sustainable, attainable, so you don't feel like you're sinking into your shoulders or your wrists, push your hands into the floor and think about stretching the floor forward away from you. And what that does, it activates your upper body so there's less sinking and more stabilizing. Once you're able to push your hands to the mat and stretch the mat forward, pull the thigh bones back. And the reason why you want to pull the thigh bones back is that it elongates the back. And we want that feeling of back elongation when we're in downward facing dog. Once you can do those two things, you're going to bring yourself up. Now, when you bring yourself up, a common mistake is that people straighten the legs right away. And when you do that, your back rounds, the back of your legs feel super tight, and you give up before you even get started. So instead of trying to straighten the legs, let's bend them. And when you bend them, you can rely on the strength in your legs and the power in your arms by stretching that floor forward to find length in your back. And if you feel like this is too much, what's the solution? You come down, you come up for a second, and you do it a little bit at a time. Progress does take time, but it can be accelerated when you're consistent and you do a little bit more each day. So let's review that one more time. Your hands are underneath your shoulders. Your knees are underneath your hips. Your toes are tucked under. Next step is you push your hands into the mat and you stretch the mat forward. Once you're secure with that, you pull the thigh bones back so that your back becomes long. And then keeping that length in the back, you elevate your legs, keeping your knees bent, kind of like a mini squat. You stretch the mat forward, you drop the head, you pull the hips back, and you enjoy downward facing dog. And remember, the goal of a yoga pose, the goal of a yoga practice is to feel better in your body. That's how you build a strong, foundational, downward facing dog.